Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. Here, again, with the Cheesehead, is that the amount of coaches that were there, the amount of I would say just the other high school coaches. It wasn't just college coaches. I mean, there were high school coaches that I saw from across the state that were coming to watch us. I mean, so you're getting information out to those guys. You're getting information out to, all the high school guys, all the parents. I mean, grandparents. So we're talking about streaming and stuff like that. Like you guys had all of this stuff out there everywhere. So the history of this goes even further back. And you guys said you started with just like obviously paper brackets, but I mean, how did you guys just advertise just with the coaches? How was it when you guys first started? You had to have been archaic, sending letters or whatever it was, you know what I'm saying? However you guys got, I'm not saying it was in the 1800s or anything, but exactly what you guys were doing compared to now. I mean, it's crazy. And the amount of information you guys put out is amazing. And so you guys have, what were the names of the guys again?
Austin and Glenn.
So who else do you have helping you with these events? I know you have volunteers, but you have Illinois men there running live stream.
Izzy and his crew, prior to the tournament, we had a Google Doc of what days everything would get released and how we would release it so that we could get a lot of anticipation for the event.
Yeah.
So IL Wrestle, they kind of took care of their end of it.
Yeah.
And then they partnered with WI Wrestle.
Okay.
And you're
Jacob and RQ. Yeah.
Yep. You're going to see them. They came up and they did their podcast before the finals, and they're going to have some interviews coming out there, and Matt Man will have some coming out there. And then obviously, doing your podcast, doing the podcast with Teague.
Yep. That's right.
We're making a real effort to work with a lot of people to promote the sport of wrestling.
And you guys, like I said, this Twitter feed is just nuts. So you guys killed it with that. So high five, Austin. I'm gonna tell Austin high five till the day I die, because I've never seen this much coverage. I don't even think the Iron Man has this much coverage. And that's a pretty well-known tournament. And those guys have kind of grown as well. But I think you guys take the cake easily. It's awesome. So high five to that. So some of the wrestling that we saw, like we said, it was great wrestling from top to bottom. You had some schools, like I said, that I've heard about but never seen. We also wound up seeing some schools change hands as far as going to national rankings, just because of the Cheesehead.
Yes.
So that's another thing I want to talk about. So you get these teams to come here, right? And you mentioned in the last episode about the coaches that you had access to and that you're friends with and things like that got this thing really going and got people's attention. So now you're up to 39 teams, and these teams that come in, I'm confused because I guess I really paid attention to just the little nuts and bolts of wrestling, but I don't understand how something like this can change a national ranking on a team. So there's a lot of weight here. Coming here means a lot. You're putting your name on the line, and I had no idea. I thought it was just a great tournament. You came and wrestled.
Yeah, there's, when you have nationally recognized programs, and they're willing to put it on the line, and then there's those that are just outside.
Sure,
they're Josh Lowe, who does the rankings for Willie.
Yep.
And obviously Flo, they're watching major events.
Sure. Yep.
And we are lucky enough to be one of those. And if you can go and ball out at those events, you're going to be in the talk for getting nationally ranked. And that's what happened for Kaukauna. You know, they had seen Simile in Eau Claire and took second, but had more champions at that event than Simile did.
Correct.
So that got some attention.
Okay.
Then you go to Minnesota Christmas tournament where there's some more top teams.
Yeah. Yep.
And they didn't wrestle as well as what they were capable, but they were just staying outside that 50.
Okay.
And then they come in, and up till the finals, they were in second place, ahead of a Millard South that won the Stampede,
correct,
ahead of Southeast Polk, who, you know, has won a lot of events this year.
Yep,
you're ahead of St. Charles East and that kind of thing.
Huh.
And so when you do that, and you get several of your team placing, man, that's how you get into the top 50.
Okay.
Like a team like Wayzata.
Yes.
Wayzata has a very, very good program. I think they're right there for being a top 50 team in the country. Because they've been close to Kaukauna at both Minnesota Christmas.
Yes.
And Casson Manorville.
Yep.
So
those guys have always been kind of a competitor.
They have, and people were trying to say that Casson was down, but man, they've been right there at Christmas tournament.
Yeah.
And they've been right there. They walked out with sixth place at the Cheesehead.
Yep. Correct.
So, man, they had a coaching change where their head coach is now the assistant, and the assistant is now head coach. And so Ryan Hill is
swap.
Ryan Hill is now the head coach, and Jamie is the assistant, and they're still doing things really, really well.
They, because just, from past wrestlers that we've heard about, they're now in the NCAAs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From Casson Manorville. I mean, we know that they've always had, studs rolling through, but it wasn't just studs. They had a whole room full of guys. And obviously you kind of have slowdowns and stuff like that as far as you got a couple weights that leave, got new guys. They always catch up, though, and that's the fun part about, especially Minnesota wrestling, the whole 7th and 8th grade thing. I mean, those guys get a chance to kind of grow before there's I don't remember how many other states allow it, but by us, allows them to grow a little better.
Yeah, they have their thing over there, and they're doing good.
They are.
So, yeah, you go to these type of events if you think you have a team that can be right there. So that is also an attraction to coming to teams, tournaments like the Cheesehead or like the Dvorak or the Christmas tournament or stuff like that.
Yeah. So with some of the teams that came and some of the teams, the Wisconsin teams, we talked about Mineral Point. The other Wisconsin teams, let me take a look here what we got. I got your whole Twitter page pulled up because I don't have a very good memory. These weird video game ads that come on these things, this is crazy.
I know.
I can't handle it.
The kids love it.
Of course they do. Of course they love that kind of Twitter. This is literally the wild, wild west out here in Twitter. It's crazy.
It is.
If you don't have some kind of filter on Twitter, it gets kind of crazy. Okay, so here we have the top 10. Amory in the top 10.
Yes.
Prospect, I wasn't familiar with those guys.
They're very, very solid.
Very solid, especially their lighter weights. They had some guys that were pounding guys out there, and it was fun to watch because they were fast. That's the fun thing about this is now with Liam getting a little bit bigger, it's not quite as quick. It's a little more, it's a sprint. But those guys are like, it's just a marathon. They're just going constantly through a match. It's like, man, and then they bend those arm, the power halves they put in.
The flexibility.
Just watching the shoulders possibly pop out of their socket, I can't handle it. So Desert Vista, that was a fun one to watch. I saw a couple of their guys. I think it's fun to watch the contrast in styles of wrestling. The West Coast wrestles different from the Midwest, and the Midwest wrestles different from the East Coast.
Oh yeah,
it's just different, and it's the coaching. A lot of times, obviously, the guys that are from out there come back out there and they go to coach, so they bring that style and it just stays. But it was fun watching the contrast of different styles from different sides of the country. That was another fun part. But the Wisconsin teams that are in here, I wanted to talk about how often so do you guys have a waiting list of teams? How do you do? I mean, there are got to be so many guys that want to get into this.
There sort of is, and I have a thing in my head of how many teams I want from each state.
Sure. Okay.
And so I don't overrepresent one state more than the other.
Yeah.
And for a while there, it was hard to get the Minnesota schools over.
Really?
And, well, they have their tournament over there that's going on the same weekend. And
gotcha.
And so we've this year was one of the bigger years for Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Getting Minnesota schools.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois, man, there's a ton of Illinois schools that want to come.
Yeah. Mount Carmel wasn't here.
Yeah, they've been here, and there's been a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And so it's kind of, I can only let so many in.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So you kind of look at, I don't necessarily, let's start out with this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily kick teams out.
Sure.
I'm big on relationships.
Sure. Yep.
And so, I want to have a strong relationship with the coaches that come.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to sit down and have a conversation like, hey, maybe next year or two, this isn't the best fit for you, but come back when it is.
So it sounds like you actually look at the teams. Like you sit down. It's not like you're making the judgment off of you're just not ready. But you actually could probably look at the teams and what they've done for the year and kind of like who they've been against and be like, hey, you may not want to come this year, kind of thing, because it may not be worth your time.
Right.
Right. There's money involved. I mean, these people got to travel.
You're going to make a big investment, and you want to be able to have quality experience for your athletes.
Correct. Right.
So that's huge. And so what I'll do is, as teams leave or decide, hey, I want to do something else with the team.
Yep.
Then I'll look at my waiting list and look how many I have from this state, that state. Which state do I want to bring in? Mm-hmm. What is their resume?
Okay, sure.
What are they bringing back in 2024?
Yeah.
And the big thing, it's big to me, is bringing full lineups. When you don't bring full lineups because of the structure of our tournament, that hurts. So I won't, when teams apply and they only have 7 or 8 wrestlers, sometimes it's harder for them to get in.
Sure.
Where teams that have bigger numbers, and you got to realize, like, they can be down 1 or 2 years, and I understand that. But I look at some of these teams have been here, 20 years. Like Wrightstown's been here 23 of the 24 years.
Yeah, that's what I was just listening to Teague and those guys talk about that, how long they've been here. Yeah.
Yeah. So that all that stuff adds in. And then I'll be honest, nationally ranked teams, they're important to our product.
Yeah.
And when they call, they get attention.
I would assume so. I mean, that's what you're looking for, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I kind of look at. And it's never easy.
I can imagine. I mean, just like I said, looking at some of the teams and the wrestlers that they have on their teams, I mean, they got quality kids. So it's, I mean, you're doing, I mean, you have a team that brought 6 kids and they're in the top 15.
Right. And they actually, they're hurt. Like, they have a lot of guys hurt. They're a really good program, and
they could have won it had they had a full team.
They might have, and so
right.
And I look at it like this: I came through Kakana, and I've watched our program build.
Yep.
And somebody had to give us a break. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what I want to do for a program. I want to give them a break. And so, like, Ryan Woods with Economwalk, he's a former Kangaroo kid.
Fired up.
And so when he approached me at first, we were only going to stay at 32 teams, so I had to tell him no, and it broke my heart.
Sure, right.
But because he does have a relationship, and he was part of what our spring program. When we went to 39, he was one of the first calls I made.
Nice.
Cole Conrad's coaching over at St. Thomas.
Yep.
He's a former Kangaroo kid.
Yep.
He gets to come in,
yeah.
And I want to help him build his program. I want to help Ryan build it, or I should say we. It's never I.
Yeah.
We want to help build those programs.
I got to take the word we out of Liam's wrestling because we don't wrestle. He does.
Yeah. But so when those are things that are part of the process too.
Well, and it's but it's a business, not business money wise, but it's business wrestling wise, So, I think a lot of those coaches, especially that are still kind of waiting, understand that you have a process. It's not like you're trying to exclude people or that you're making everybody, pay a price because they did something kind of thing. Where it's literally, you want to make sure that everyone's going to have a decent opportunity to have a competitive weekend. And a decent opportunity to maybe place, whatever it is that they, whatever type of team they have. But it's a business of putting that together to make sure that happens, So it's.
And we only have so much room.
Yes. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But it wasn't, okay, so we'll talk about it. It wasn't a huge deal. It wasn't really that big of a deal. So with the space that you guys put in 2 more mats, right? It was 8 last year.
Yeah,
now it's 10.
We put 10 in the field house this year, and
right.
we put 2 in the auxiliary gym.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we had the team stay in our turf football area.
Sure. Yep.
To give them enough space and to make it a better fan and athlete experience being in that auxiliary gym.
I see whispers of the Minnesota Christmas tournament. But obviously it's just built different. You know what I'm saying? As far as just where everything, but you saved the score table people by making that format. They weren't facing the crowd as much. They weren't, right by the fans where they could scream at them. Cause I remember last year I was like, man, I hope I get tucked away by the trainers where you don't have a crowd and you're under a tent almost. And you're just sitting there working under a tent and you don't get yelled at by parents. Cause that's nerve wracking. But so the space was fine though. There was room to move. A lot of people were out in the cafeterias, and just kind of like a normal tournament. And you had plenty of space. There was still space in the bleachers because people move.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people were smart enough to leave the front row open for people that are watching a match. I think they only had to mention people like not standing over where people are trying to watch, like maybe twice. After a while.
And the nice thing is, what that helps with the space is the South Dakota coach who's like, I love this tournament because here's the deal. I can't turn a quarter without seeing a bout board and being able to know where kids are at.
Yeah.
And to keep it simple so that people move to where they need to move because they know where they're going.
Correct.
Whereas not having to move to find a bout board. Mm-hmm. And then I walk to the whole other end of the gym to find the bout board. And then I have to walk all the way back because my kid's on the other end of the gym. So
you guys had that covered.
You kind of try to keep them knowledgeable.
Yep.
So that when they do have to make a move, they're going to the right area.
So you guys had a screen out in the cafeteria. You had you had a screen on each side of the basketball court, left and right, and you had TV screens on each other end, on both sides.
Right.
And then the one side you didn't because you had the big one out in the cafeteria, but you had one on the other end down there. And so there's no way that you couldn't see where bouts were there. And the only hiccup, and it wasn't even Wi-Fi or nothing, it was track. It would just take a second in between matches. So I was running a table, and when you would try to advance to the next match, track was taking a second.
It was down nationwide.
Yeah.
And at the time, extremely frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily people understood that it's nationwide. Every tournament's struggling at that time.
Yep. And we were so we had wrestlers that were kind of, they were warming up, and then they come up to the table. I would tell them, just get your shirt on, just it'd take 30 seconds, 45 seconds. We'll be ready, kind of thing. And they're like, okay. One of them actually said, okay, good. I'm not ready.
Good. He got
not a problem.
Ready.
Yeah. So that was, but other than that, again, food was good. The concession stand people, high five to those guys, all the volunteers in there. Is that Cindy that runs that?
That's Jody also.
Jody. Yes. So Jody and Cindy helps out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then Ann McDaniel, she's a big part of it.
Ann and Steve McDaniel are warriors. They are warriors. I mean,
yes,
Ann McDaniel was the jack of all trades, from working tables to taking care of the entrance or the admission, helping with the mission stuff. She does everything.
Yeah.
And Steve's trying to coach, and Steve's trying to hand out lunch tickets to coaches and outstanding wrestler ballots and all the other stuff.
Yep.
Like those two are just something special.
And then they're the ones that are the life of the party afterwards. When you go to hang out, they're the ones that coach is full of energy.
I don't know how they have the energy at the end of the night, but they sure do. And then, like, you know, one thing we hang our hat on is we feed our coaches really well.
Yeah,
and that's
you do.
That's where Cindy Wenzicki and her crew,
yes,
they take care of our coaches' meals. And,
yep.
And shout out to Begoni's. They cater in, and we.
There's good food back there.
Oh yeah, we got some, you know, pastas. We got all different
pizza, salads,
three different kinds of salads,
dressings that are back there. You get soda and water, whatever the coaches wanted. I mean, so Jody and those guys killed it. I mean, just as far as timing and everything too. They had everything was done, ready to go. So the whole team that was working in there, I know was it DeGroots were in there and Sprangers, all the volunteers. But then you also had, like you said, Ann was out by me. She was sitting at the table. She was figuring out how to run the timer and stuff like that. And I was like, holy cow, you're everywhere. You are everywhere, lady. But so you had those guys. Now you guys you talk about things that you guys have been doing and that you kind of advanced and kind of going through. What are some things to look for in the future with the tournament?
Well, we want to help. The one thing I learned through my daughter, and her travels in the softball world, is college coaches will come up and they'll get information about the athlete.
Yes, they do.
And so they'll know their GPA, they'll know their ACT scores.
Okay.
They know their batting average, you know, they know everything.
Yep. They can literally just look at something and just sit and watch. Yep. They don't have to worry about looking nothing up.
They have their Twitter thing right on their profile. So,
oh boy.
So what we're trying to do eventually, our goal is to make it easier for the college coaches that come to get
a lot of them were there.
Athlete information. So that's our next step, is to make it easier for the college coach to have information that they would like.
Yep.
So that they can make it easier for them to recruit the athletes that we have at the event.
So that's, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. It's interesting in what, you know, a college coach, because you go to Super 32, you see those guys everywhere. I mean, they're probably a quarter of the crowd, you know, at Super 32. So there's a lot of college coaches there. Now, I've been to Cheeseheads before. Didn't notice, maybe I wasn't paying attention because I didn't really have to at the time, or it just wasn't something that caught my eye. But I noticed a lot of them this year, like a lot. So like you mentioned, Mankato State, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, did you say too? So, I mean, obviously you guys have been doing this for a while, so it's not that people are strange to the tournament, but it's making noise now. Because we touched on the national rankings, but now we have coaches that are coming here and checking out athletes, and not just because it's good Wisconsin kids, because there's a lot of them. It's kids from across the country.
Well, and Wisconsin's on the up.
Yes,
so
definitely.
They're coming here to see some of Wisconsin's better kids wrestle against some of the best kids from Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri. You know, all these states. Yep. And there was from Division II, Division III. I saw a lot of Division I. We had the Badgers and Minnesota, and I think it was Illinois out of the Big Ten for sure. And then you had West Point was here. And they're looking for a certain kind of athlete at West Point.
Of course.
And so they made the trip out here from New York.
Wow.
Little Rock made it up from Arkansas, you know, and so there was a lot of college coaches there, and we want to make their life easier and make the athlete's life easier in that getting their information out to the coaches.
So it's interesting you mentioned as far as the information. I know there are several, you know, like obviously people pay attention to like Matt Scott Willie, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And the rankings. So with that being said, and the college coaches needing the information, are there going to be certain things that you put in place for the college coaches when they come here? Like are you going to give them? You go to Super 32, they got those places to go and sit. up in, are you going to have like a college coach kind of area where they can go and talk about things or?
No, I don't. No. I think they like sitting with the crowd. I think they like that from what I from the guys I talked to this weekend. We're just going to make it easier when they walk in the door.
Sure.
Like if you're a college coach, you come through this entrance, we'll have this packet ready for you, and you walk right in, and then you'll be able to have access to the information that we have available.
You don't charge those guys to come in, do you?
No, we do not.
That's good. That is good.
They have budget struggles just like everybody else, and we want them at the event.
Yeah,
Why would we put something up to block that from happening?
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I mean, I would actually roll out the red carpet.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this away, guys. Here's the coach's food too, by the way.
Yep,
guys.
exactly.
Because they're the ones that are, that's what's advancing hopefully these kids further, into what their dreams or goals. So it's part of it. So with that being said too, you said talk about sitting in the crowd, how big of the crowd was this? One of the bigger crowds you guys had?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I think this was a good crowd, and
I know you guys don't count numbers or anything.
Yeah,
like not clicking or anything like that.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know the financial end of it right now.
Yeah,
because it's way too close. We're still recovering, but
not for long though. It sounds like you're jumping into Fargo already. You said,
yeah. I jumped into Fargo this morning, but we had a really good crowd, and that's the other thing about coming here is who doesn't want to wrestle in front of a packed crowd.
That was, and there were, so it was fun to listen to that. There were teams that were sitting across from each other where their kids were in the finals, and it was back and forth and back and forth. I mean, I watched Verbatim get into it a little bit this week, and that was kind of fun to watch. You got a little squirrely running up to the table. I know he gets passionate, but I'd never seen him get that kind of worked up over a match, but the crowds were loud.
Yeah,
they were loud for just about every finals match that was out there, and a lot of kids getting their 100th win. So you heard a lot of people cheering for that. That's pretty cool. And I noticed, I think you guys may have had a couple on Twitter, but that's pretty cool that a lot of these kids get to reach at the Cheesehead.
Yeah, that was neat this year. It seemed like more than normal.
Yeah, way more than normal. It's popping up a lot. So I don't know if that's just a sign of the times with how much kids wrestle now, but
and some of them were hurt by COVID because some of them are into their senior year.
Very, very true. I did notice that. It was a lot of the guys at the end of their high school career.
Where normally that's happening sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool this year to hear that. And, so being in front of a big crowd, I think is important for a sport because, nobody wants to wrestle in front of 25 people, right? You want to be in front of 1,000. 1,500, 2,000.
See, so that's got to be a big draw for some kids too when it comes to going to college, because you watch some of the videos that some of these, they're smaller colleges. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the demographics and stuff like that. But you notice that it's like a crowd of like maybe 30, 40 people, and you're like, they love the sport. You can tell the crowd that's in there is cheering for it. It's not like they're just sitting down or nothing like that. But it's when you have 100, 200, 300, 400 people in a gym, and 200 of them are screaming for you. That's something I definitely want to do, because that's why I played soccer, so I could score goals. And people yell, they cheer. You know, kids love that. So with that going through, we touched a little bit, just kind of shortly on like the Wisconsin Wrestle guys that were there. They weren't there for the whole thing because you have what you have going on with the Illinois Matmen, but they kind of they're buddies. They did the interview with Izzy and stuff like that, but they did a kind of a quick recap with
Nick Becker,
Coach Becker from Parkside. And they were just kind of talking about some of the weights, the finals that were coming up. Had the crowd in the background. The coaches were walking by, Coach Empey, stuff like that. We're all walking by. But as far as the mat coverage, that was really good.
Yeah,
the Illinois Matmen did a really good job covering each and every mat.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We had Teague and Steve and Jason. They covered it. They announced for Illinois Matman.
Yep,
and we had all 12 mats going, and we had a really good hits on their site.
Yeah,
for people watching, it was awesome. Better than in past.
Yep.
So me and Izzy are both fired up about what the future holds, and what our next big venture is together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they do a good enough job. I'd just do like a lifetime contract with those guys. Just leave it at that. They already know what's going on. Why mess up a good thing? But with that being said, with Illinois Mat Men and WI Wrestle, I was hanging out there. I was just there to watch my kid. But and then plus the other coverage. I mean, I think there were some newspapers there. There's news coverage coming in. It's got to be crazy the amount of attention that you get afterwards. I mean, do you get the phone calls from coaches saying, "Hey, did anybody drop out after this year?" Hey, do you start getting a lot of emails about that?
I'll start getting those in the next month.
So.
Really, I don't. So I wait till after the high school season in Wisconsin, which is one of the later ones.
Yep.
And then I start talking because coaches are trying to do their job right now. They're trying to coach and win duels and get ready. Their kids prepared for state championships.
It's the last half, yeah.
Right? So I want to leave them alone and let them do what they're supposed to do.
Right on.
And then when we get done with the state dual meet tournament, I'll switch gears and start looking at, okay, what teams are going to come back, what teams are sending their resume in, and who we're going to bring in. And that'll usually happen in March. And then, to be honest, I'll leave a spot, maybe two open.
Sure.
For that one team that's out there that's kind of my dream team. And if I can get them, I'll fill them with that.
Yeah.
With that, and that's worked for us.
So you have a waiting list and a wish list, I take it then.
Yeah, there's usually one or two teams that I really want.
Sure, yeah.
And it takes a while to get them.
Yeah.
But it helps with contacts. And, usually teams I'm going after, we know somebody that has been here.
Yeah.
And I can say, hey, you can talk to this coach or you can talk to that coach. And
sure.
And they'll tell you what our tournament's about.
Yeah. Well, I know DeMoss and those guys, I don't know if he's been bugging you, but he kept bugging me last year. He's like, hey, who's in charge of that tournament? Is that Kluever? I was like, yeah, it's Kluever. I was like, I can't answer any questions. You got to contact that guy.
Yeah, and they did reach out, and they're on the list.
Yeah.
And so, they have some good kids. It's just I can't bring 30-some teams from Illinois.
Maybe what will happen is the Cassiope brothers will be on the team, and then they can, hopefully they can make their way up once those guys are in the school. Because I know those guys. I think those guys are 8th graders this year.
Yeah, I know there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, Tony. That's a funny family. I love those guys.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They are awesome. So, with that being said, with what you guys have, are you guys already kind of planning? Do you have to make phone calls of like teams like, hey, next year we're gonna put someone else in? Do you have to do that?
I'll just have an honest conversation with the coach about where are you at with your program.
Okay, sure.
And that's
it's fair.
That's the conversation that has to happen.
Sure.
And like I said, I don't want to kick them out. We just got to have an honest conversation of what do you got coming up?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to be competitive here?
Yep. And that's the whole point.
Right. And it's not necessarily taking first or taking fifth.
Nope.
But it's being competitive and bringing close to a full lineup.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're worried about.
So with some of the teams in the amount that you have coming through, have you ever had years where it's the same, or you like Pearl Jam where you change the set list every single time you go out?
We kind of change the set list every time we go out.
Okay.
Because there's always different situations that come up that pull teams out.
Sure. Yep.
And there's situations where I want to pull a different team, a different look, back in.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Yeah. I mean, it cycles.
Yeah.
There's cycles, and I think it happens a lot with teams here too. I mean, it's just cyclical.
Yeah. And like there's teams that are consistently very devoted to coming to this tournament, and I'm super excited that they are.
Yeah, totally.
Because you need that. You need some consistency to be legitimate.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, you look at the teams up there and you look at the list. I mean, it's a heavy list that's just making the top 15. Yeah. With some of the kids that are on the rosters. I mean, Marshfield's got a good lineup. Amory's got a good lineup. I mean, Wazada, all these teams. Southeast Polk, we obviously
Arrowhead. They were in 7th. They, just short of getting the trophy.
That's right. Yeah.
And
that's kind of a interesting team, and I know, Duchateau came off of some injuries, but he's wrestling really well, as far as dealing with his arm and things like that. And then watching the rest of the team, I know they had a new guy at 160, another solid wrestler, but Arrowhead, I mean, they're number 2 in the state for a reason,
Yeah. And
they're nipping at our heels.
And they're right, they're right there.
Yeah.
They had a really good tournament down at Crown Point.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that. Yeah.
So, they're going to be really, really solid.
And Crown Point's a hotbed for wrestling in Indiana, that's for sure. We know a guy from there.
Yeah, they are really good this year. Wow.
They are good. They are good. Who came Crown Point? Christian Carroll. Was he at a Crown Point?
He's been to several different schools.
Was it? Happens all the time. I think I saw some kids that were probably 32 this weekend and not like 16 and 17. So that's kind of where that's at. But I witnessed boys that I probably wouldn't go up against in a bar at all.
Yeah, there's some toughies out there.
Some big kids out there. So now anything new that you guys know is going to happen next year that you have planned, or is it right now? As of right now, it's the same as we got. You're adding on a little bit of, some extras for the college coaches coming in. We can talk about what those specifics will be at another one.
It's kind of, this is what we're going to be next year. We're going to be that 40 team range.
Okay.
No more than that.
Yep.
And, I don't see a bunch of change.
Yep.
There'll be some teams that'll decide to go somewhere else,
sure.
Because it costs a lot of money.
It does.
Those teams that come out of Arizona and Colorado, it's expensive.
Well,
so it just depends on how much their budget that they can make it happen.
Yeah.
So if they can make it happen, obviously we'll have them back. But if they can't, that'll open the door for some other team from a distance.
Yeah,
we're not going to fill those type of teams.
Might be time to start looking south.
No, we have. We've had teams out of Georgia.
I was going to say,
yeah. When I got my eye on a certain team somewhere between here and Florida that I really, really like.
Yep.
And I have a relationship with their coach, and they have some nationally ranked kids.
Okay.
And I'm not saying who it is because there's a lot of people that would like to have this team.
Yeah.
So
we'll keep that quiet then.
We'll keep that under wraps for right now. But I'm not going to fill it with another Wisconsin team.
Sure.
But, for a new Wisconsin team to get in, a Wisconsin team has to go out.
Sure.
Sure.
I see what you're doing.
So we want to cover certain areas of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and like you said, too, is like bringing different opportunities for other schools outside of the country, too. I mean, it's not like you only know Wisconsin people. You know of all these other schools that are out there. You pay attention. I'm sure people in the wrestling world, but not everybody knows that Poway is like a very good California team that could, possibly have some nationally ranked kids on. So there's all kinds of teams out there that have sneaky kids that you just don't know about. You know about the team, then all of a sudden you hear about them, you're like, where the hell's that team from? Yeah. Just like I had with like 3 of them this week. And I'm like, where the fuck's that team from? I don't know who these guys are, So like I said, I see what you're doing, and it's a great mix. You had Arizona, then you had Colorado, you had us, then you had Minnesota, and I think what next? Do any of the Eastern teams? I know you said you had some obviously prep schools, things like that, but have you had Eastern teams, any PA teams reach out? Well,
we've had High Point, New Jersey in the past.
Oh, okay,
and so.
Nice.
We like to get some East Coast teams. The hard thing for the PA teams is they use a point system.
Oh.
And
see, I don't know
so that the point system hurts with the number of matches that they get here.
Sure. Yeah.
So where it's an advantage for most teams that come, for PA, it somewhat hurts them.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, because there's a certain couple teams in PA that I've been in conversations with that I would really, really like to get out here. And there's a couple in Ohio.
Oh, for sure.
There's great wrestling on the East Coast. Just phenomenal.
Yeah. Once you start getting past the Illinois Indiana border, is like it just starts to get better and better and better and better as you get over there.
Well,
not that we suck, but I mean,
no, and
it's different.
Well, and let's be honest, I want to battle with those type of teams, and because I think Wisconsin is getting to the point where we can talk smack just as much as they can.
Well, and you look at what our teams have done, the cadet and juniors and stuff like that, in the past couple of years. We keep climbing.
Yeah, we're the only state in the country that can say we're in the top 5 in every age group for the guys, in every style. Last year, but also the last 2 years.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So we're starting to have a little feather in our cap, and we got some pretty dang good kids. So now maybe people should be coming to us.
That draws teams. Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
Because we've been chasing too.
We've for a while.
We've had to go out. We've had to run to Ironman.
Yep.
You know, we've had to run down to Illinois. Teams are running all over. It's nice if they want to see some of the top ranked kids in the country, they got to come here too.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you're bringing them here. It's just like I said, it was just from beginning to finals, there were just matches that were just fun to watch. I mean, it was good wrestling.
It was funny, right? For our prelims to even get into our round of 32, I was sitting down and Steve was talking with me from the podcast.
Yeah. Steve Lurkwin. Shout out.
Lurkwin, yeah. And he's like, these kids can wrestle, and they're pretty good, and they're not even going to get into the regular tournament.
Right, that's exactly. So when you were explaining, because I deal with the middle school championship style format, right? So then you guys throw all this other shit at me that I don't know what it is, and you're like, oh no, they got to do this pool, this wrestling in these brackets to get into their pools, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? I just got used to one way. So you guys had these brackets. It wasn't brackets. What was the first part called?
The prelims.
Prelims, right. So the prelims, the kids had to wrestle, three matches regardless. That first day.
So what happened
was 4 total.
They had to some of the kids, if you were 25th seed or lower, you had to wrestle a prelim to get into the 32 person bracket. Once you got into 32 person bracket, if you lost there, you went in the true bracket system for 16th and back. Or 17th and back.
And back, yep. Then the rest was the top 16 after they cleared through the 4 matches that they had.
Then they went into the pools and they scrapped it out to find out if they were in the top 8 or 9th through 16th.
Yeah.
And then we just wrestled that out, and it was it really tests your grit.
Oh, I'll say
it you can't lose twice and run away and go, lick your wounds.
Yeah, no.
No. We're dragging you right back out to mat number 7. You get another couple matches yet.
And you do. So it's like we were talking about that, and I was like, it doesn't matter which way you go. You have like 5 or 6 matches. Yeah. So I said, you're going to, even if you, in looking at the bracket that he had too, I was like, even if you don't do top 16, you're still going to have hard matches.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be some more than some state qualifiers come out of that
easily.
back bracket.
Easily.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah. So that was kind of fun watching, like Elazuski wrestle. I didn't get to see, a lot of this, again, these weights are all new, and especially some of these kids at some of these schools are new. I don't know who half of them are. So watching them wrestle was fun, especially getting to watch them and have to wrestle at a high competitive level.
Yeah.
Because you're not just walking. So that Wayzata kid, Liam, wrestled. He had a really good matchup against Elazuski, and then Elazuski just threw a bomb on him and basically hurt his shoulder. He hurt that other guy's shoulder, and it was crazy because Elazuski had him pinned. I think they should have called the pin before they called the injury. That's just me. But he pinned him anyways. But just watching these guys have to be able to compete at that level, because you hear people say, oh, this guy's this or this guy's this. And you're like, all right, but he's, who's he wrestling? Now you get to see. You get to see him. Every single guy has to put something forward, because it does, like you said, you can't run and hide. You can't go in the bleachers, go take a nap and eat some carrots and lick your wounds. Now you're going to go maybe have a carrot or two and go possibly get your ass kicked again, because it's not going to be easy.
Oh, and there are a lot of, that 4-3 heartbreaker that really rips the kid's heart out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he learns to recover.
Yep.
and he goes back into another 5-4
Yep.
heartbreaker of maybe this time he wins, maybe he loses again.
Yeah.
You know, it really kind of mentally kids grow from this event.
Totally. If they don't, then they got some work to do because, man, it's a grinder.
Yeah, it is. And you know, it's all about perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
right.
You know, as long as their coach explains when they come here what they're trying to accomplish,
right? Yep.
You know, it's about the perspective you take when you come to these high level events.
Yep. Well, and it's kind of like even talking to some of the kids that were just around at the event, you know, just asking how their matches were going, and a lot of them seemed mature. You know, a lot of them seemed like, you know, it was a tough one, and you know, I could have done this better. That's probably where I slipped up and got that point scored on me, but I got this guy coming up next, and I really want that match though. So even though they were on like a bottom side or whatever, there were matches they still wanted.
Yeah.
And you barely hear that in a consolation round until third place or something. You know what I'm saying? Where it kind of matters to a kid, because that's where they talk about that grind back. But these guys really had to grind on the backside. So it's a testament to the kids and the teams that are coming here, because they know what's up, and you're just going to bring more and more and more and more of that around. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So you guys have that plan for the future, kind of keeping it the same, maybe working on some stuff on the side, but when it's all said and done, the meat of it, you don't need to change a damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty good.
Yeah. We're, you know, people like the hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
The coaches like it. They get good matches. They get what they need out of it, and they can go make their wrestlers better because everybody's exposed.
Yeah.
Even the champions are exposed.
Yep.
So they can leave here. They got plenty of time before the tournament series starts.
Yep.
To make the adjustments they need to make to get what they want out of it.
Totally. And I mean, for some of these kids leaving here, even from out of state, I mean, I think they're going to have a way better perspective of what they got to do, because I mean, like you said, Wisconsin's on the way up, and some of these kids some of the Wisconsin kids really brought it to the out of state kids. I mean,
they did.
They killed it. So,
and I'll tell you this, Castile, Arizona.
Yep.
Last year they left here with their tail between their legs.
Sure.
And they were the number one team in Arizona last year.
Yep.
And they went to a big tournament, sort of like what would be our bi-state.
Okay.
Where like all the number one teams in Arizona and number two, and they were all in the same event together.
Yeah.
And they crushed everybody. It wasn't even close.
Sure.
And their coach said, it's because we came back from here. Our kids knew what tough matches were. They knew how to fight. And he goes, now we'll see this weekend with this group of kids.
Yep.
Now they're a little younger and a little more inexperienced, but he said, I want to see where we end up at that event.
That's again, you can't go wrong. So that list has got to be super long, you know. That's
well, and the other thing is I'm gonna put a plug in here.
Yeah.
Like when you see a kid's record, you come through after they came through this tournament, there's very few that are going to be undefeated.
Right.
So when you see that kid with 5 losses,
yeah,
you can't underestimate that dude.
Those losses, yeah.
Yeah, those are real losses. Like they're not the 27-1 kid that didn't go through and wrestle. Like the guys that get 3-4 losses here, they're losing to 3-4 state placed state champions or nationally ranked kids.
Yep. So
when you look at that state bracket and you're like, oh, I got this kid from so and so, he's 27-6, and I'm 31-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might want to. You better prepare for him.
Might want to check that out because, well, and that was like I told Liam, because he wrestled SWA, you know, I mean, so that's a man, you know, and you're 14. I said, but he's also got some time behind him too. I said, you only lost 3-0. You know, that was it. I said, do you think he wants to wrestle you again? Possibly not. You know, because you brought it to him. I said and I think kids lose that sight when it comes to these tournaments, these big things, because they want to, you know, who likes losing? Number one, we always ask that. Who likes losing? No one's likes losing. So with that being said, these kids come here, and I think it's important that they come away with that fact that these kids that they may have taken a loss to, it's not a shabby loss. You talk about those 5-4 heartbreakers. That kid could have been that, top kid that lost 5-4, but he didn't know that kid. He hadn't wrestled him before. Well, now you know that there's competition out there. That's the other good thing about this tournament is, and number one, about the schools that you may not recognize. Now these kids get their name out there. People don't know who they are. They know now.
Oh,
especially if they did well.
I can tell you this. Willie's been a huge promotion person for Cheesehead. He's been sweet. He's been huge, and obviously, he does his national rankings, and he's breaking down our tournament. Like he sees these kids' names. Yeah. So if you do well here, you're going to be on the watch list. Yeah. Sweet. Well, like I said, when you change a team's ranking from outside looking in to 40, I mean, there's damage can be done if you come and do well, and you can definitely make your name known. So it's a great tournament. It's all around. I don't think I could find, people were talking about the space. Everything that kind of happened that was maybe was all kind of really out of anyone's control. The space was, you had 10 mats, but you still had plenty of room in that whole building to move around. You had the other 2 mats. I think it flowed just fine. I think it worked well with what you got going on. Anything more added onto the future is just a bonus. Yeah, and honestly, that's just going to be like, holy shit, this is like a carnival of wrestling if you do more. Well, and year 25 is next year. Yeah, like the 25th actual tournament. Quarter century. Quarter century. Yeah. So there will be something that happens that will be fireworks. It's just nothing I'm going to let the public know about. Quiet people, pay attention. You got watch the Cheesehead Twitter. That if anything's going to happen, it's going to happen on there, for God's sakes. But we have some plans and some things that we want to do. Oh boy, that make this tournament special. Okay, and it's not already. Well, it is, but you're yours. I know it is. You're always looking to get better because you never stay the same. You either get better or you get worse. Yeah. And our group is not going to get complacent thinking we're good. So here's the other bonus that I don't think gets brought up enough because it's at Kaukauna High School. You are lucky enough to have a high school that actually has a wrestling kind of culture and faculty that is wrestling minded. Well, they're sports minded first. They are. Kaukauna loves their sports. They do. They really love their soccer field's phenomenal. That football field in the back, that's phenomenal. Yeah. He is. They are sports minded. But I've never seen a school that has wrestling in mind as much as this one. So that's the bonus. So you have, number one, you have a great, you got the youth club, those families, you have the middle school, those families, you have the high school families. I mean, you were talking about, it was like 288 or something like that volunteers that you have to be able to balance for this. So, I mean, it's a high five to you guys for doing the job that you do, the volunteers. And we mentioned some of them before. Go ahead. We were talking like, we lost a good number of volunteers because we have so many kids wrestling in college down at the national duels, which is a great problem. Like, we got a great alumni base too. Yeah. So, I mean, not only great coaching staff, but the culture, like you just said, it's the culture that's here that helps bring a lot of this to light. I mean, because if you didn't have the culture, you just have the people that come to watch their teams. Hey, we had our former superintendent came to watch. Yep. Our current superintendent came to watch. Our principal was there all day long. Helped. Yes. And I think we have the best athletic director in the state. And also helped. And he was there the whole time. Yep. He takes so much pride, and not just in wrestling, but every sport. But he takes so much pride in being there and being a servant leader. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't say enough about Mr. Warner. Yeah. Yeah. And I believe we spoke with him this weekend as well. The guy, to know individuals from a team. And so he pays attention to it all. I've seen him do stuff with the girls basketball team, things like that. So he definitely cares about athletics in general at the school. And it was nice to see him kind of getting around. Again, he was helping. Yeah. So you have this culture here that it only helps when you have teams, when you have an event like this to be able to pull it off. So it's a testament to, you have to be able to treat people well. If you don't treat people well, they're going to show up.
right?
Right.
They aren't going to help you. So obviously you guys are treating people well and making sure the volunteers are taken care of. It's all around good thing. So I will always tell people, get your ass in the gym. Next year, you missed it this year. Next year, put it on your Google Calendar so your phone sends you a notification like 3 months before. So you put in vacation and you just come here to watch in the gym. But yes, Illinois Mat Men were streaming. WI Wrestle did a little bit. We did some stuff beforehand, and then you did stuff with Teague, WI Wrestler, Wisconsin Wrestler podcast. So you are getting the coverage, and we're not going to stop. So anything that you guys have going on, post me and let me know. Cheesehead announcements, stuff like that. We'll put it out there.
It was really cool at the end of the tournament.
Yeah.
I went over to Jesmond Smith, the assistant coach at Southeast Polk. And he was talking to these two guys in Iowa gear.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to them. One of them flew all the way up from Texas to watch this tournament.
Whoa.
And he's been here several years. He goes, he will not miss it.
Was that a gentleman in a cowboy hat?
Nope, that's a different one.
Okay.
That's a different one, but yes. So, but it was cool to hear somebody think that, man, that's.
Well, Texas has some good teams too, man.
Yeah, we've had Allen here.
Yeah, Texas has some pretty decent teams. I think I dealt with a gentleman out of Georgia for a little while, and just a guy who's got a wrestler down there. And it's just kind of fun to watch the growth of that sport down there. But yeah, that's impressive. Someone just flying up from Texas.
Yeah, to make it
come to the tournament
trip.
Holy shit, that's pretty cool. So you're doing something right. So don't screw that up, okay?
We're gonna try not to. We're gonna try to. We're like I said, we're very motivated, very passionate,
definitely,
and very excited for what the future holds for the Cheesehead. And in year 25, people are gonna want to make plans to be there for the whole weekend because it's gonna be something really special.
Oh, did you hear that bomb he just threw out the whole weekend?
Yeah,
like it's not long enough already, Scott.
No, it is long because we started this year on Thursday night.
I would have brought a cot. Sorry, I would have brought a cot. I would have slept there. Well, and that was the thing. So that's the hard part is Thursday night we came to watch, but Wisconsin has dual night that night.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously we went and watched a little bit. We saw some of the duels. Awesome wrestling. I don't think I'd love to get on the announcements of the duels because that's less people to deal with, less athletes, and I could talk a little because it's amazing how Teague and those guys can keep up with, and how the Illinois Mat Men guys had all the guys that were announcing. They do their homework.
Yes,
and
they do.
It's very daunting when you're looking at stuff because then you got a match coming up and you're quick pulling up information just to see, pulling out like you got pulling out the pamphlets and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see the evolution. And again, we'll obviously be there always to help. And I can't thank everybody else out there enough. I know you can't either, but just the volunteers and seeing how things went, and the table workers and the high school guys, alumni coming in to help. I mean, it is a culture.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's just a bunch of special people. We're just blessed.
Yep, from beginning to now.
Yeah,
I mean, just the connections. It's just crazy. So I mean, there's a lot of stories to tell.
And we got to thank the teams that showed up because there is no tournament without the teams.
Without them. Yeah, I know. Right. So from Minnesota, Arizona, Colorado, all the teams that showed up, Wayzata, what's another one? We go. Kakana was there, Arrowhead, those guys. I mean, Fenimore.
Like we have such great teams from all over that are willing to, their budget.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
A chunk.
It's not cheap to travel.
Yeah. Especially a team.
Yeah, so when they hop in a coach bus, I know how expensive that is. When they hop in airplane, I know how expensive that is. So we're just going to keep doing our best to make it worthwhile for them to come, and we really thank them for investing their money into what we love to do.
Right on. Well, with that, we'll end it. You got a lot of stuff you're working on. You said Fargo already. It's crazy.
Fargo's time.
This has been another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. We appreciate everyone listening. Hopefully you got to the Cheesehead, because if you didn't, you missed a good year. It was a good year. So shout out to all the champions. Shout out to you, Mr. Kluever, for running this thing and making this thing happen, because without you, the whole thing never happened. So we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We appreciate it. So we'll end her there. Everybody take a listen. We'll see you next time. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.